Okay, each of you should have in your kit a white tray like this one, and it is for dumping out your glass so that you can take a look through and find specific shapes that you're looking for. So when you're done with each color, when you're finished playing with green, just dump it back in the container and then use this white tray for your next color. Or since you're at home and you have other containers, if you want to line cookie sheets with a sheet of white paper so that you have like all 5 trays set out like this, you can do that too. Just make sure you clean your trays after you've used them, okay? So the first steps, you've already picked your colors, so my next piece of advice on how to do this is that if there's some shapes that you think are interesting, start with the shapes that you think are interesting. You don't want a polka dot. You don't want to put a whole bunch all over the place, but I would say with this, because these are very big, you can probably start with maximum 2 crazy shapes to start with. And then the idea is to not put a little bit more green here, there, and everywhere, or whatever color you're working with, but to always build on what's there. So, for example, I'm going to look at this here. I think that kind of sort of fits the curve. And this kind of fits there. And then this has lucked out and found this crazy purple piece. And then there's this blue that would work really well. So you can move the pieces around a bit too when you're trying to figure out placement in the beginning. It's important though, want to know about the corners and the edges, that a corner, you want to have it nice and square in the corner. You don't want to have it twisted and hanging off a little bit like that. And you don't even want to have, if at all possible, try not to have any of the clear. Try and have a good solid square corner or triangle or whatever. Doesn't have to be a square shape. You can actually put 2 triangles. You could put a triangle in a corner like that, and see, that gives you a nice solid corner as well. So that's how you do the corners. And speaking of the edges, or heading to the edges, you always want to make sure you go right with whatever piece is close to the edge, line it up with the edge. Don't let it hang over, and don't let it be too far in. I mean, if the odd one, because it fits your piece perfectly, is in a little bit, that's okay, but the whole idea is not to have a border of clear glass around the edge if at all possible. Take it to the edge. Okay, so I had some kind of a master plan to do this quickly to show you how everything could fit together, because if otherwise this video will be 3 hours long, just like your class, and you don't want to watch me for that long. Okay, so you see each piece I'm always adding to what I have, like a puzzle maker. I think I did something crazy like this. One of the tricks on the edges too, you can do obviously a straight square, but maybe, there, you see how that lines up? There, and I can move these guys down and get them into their final positions. By using this triangle shape, it actually does a nice job of fitting to the edge, and maybe sometimes you turn a piece around to get it to fit better. And because you don't want to create too many holes, might have a little bit of fun hunting for a piece to fit that spot. So rather than do that, I'd probably rather try and get it all to fit now by adding to what's there all the time. Let me see. Sometimes a variety of shapes is also, not sometimes, all the time, a variety of shapes and sizes makes your piece more interesting. And I'm just going to move this guy out of the way right now, because he's not quite doing the trick. He might not survive being on the piece in the end, and that's okay. And it's okay with the spacing too. I think I wrote it on your instruction sheet. I don't know, it's about 1/16 of an inch, doesn't really matter. Better to err on the side of having them touch rather than having big gappy spaces, but the odd big gappy space is okay. So, and they don't have to fit perfectly tight everywhere, but they can. Just make sure they're not overlapping. No surfers allowed, okay? So you just continue until your whole design is finished. I will not bore you with the details of that whole creation for this. I'm just going to put a couple more pieces, and then I will give you the demonstration on how to glue. So you just keep building and building. Some of the things, I should have told you this, you're supposed to clean each piece before you go. Whoops. So I did not give you a cloth today because of the COVID virus. You guys all have tea towels at home, so just use a clean, dry tea towel. And all you want to do is, I also have like just a water container, so if you got an old yogurt container or something, just put a little bit of clean water in it. You want to have a wet spot on your towel. And before you set your pieces down, sorry, but I'm so excited about the design, I forgot to do that part. You want to take the cloth where the wet spot is and just wipe that piece of glass so that if there's any marks on it or anything, or grease or anything, it's clean. So then you'd move your hand to a dry part of the towel. It's hard to do this above the camera without knocking all the other pieces off, but let's try. Okay, so you polish it dry in the dry section, and then you put it down on your piece. So please do that with every piece as you go, because then we don't ever have to pick them up again. We do not pick it up to glue, so it's great to have each piece clean as you set it down. I also didn't include in your kit tweezers because I'm pretty sure everybody has a pair at home like this, and they're not mandatory. I actually find using your fingers is better than using tweezers sometimes, because if you ever tried to pick up a slippery mushroom with a plastic chopstick, you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyway, here's an example of what your tweezers are for should you want to use them. Sometimes you have a little teeny piece, it's easier to fit it on there with the tweezers, or sometimes it's easier just to give that piece of glass a nudge into its final position with the tweezers. Another way the tweezers are really great, if you should want to use them, is when you've got a piece of glass and you think it might fit. If you hold it with the tweezers like this and you hold it over the spot you're considering, that's a good way to know if it's going to be too big. And if it looks like it's going to work, then you can just ditch the tweezers and pop that piece into place. Okay? And you just keep doing that until your whole design is complete. Don't overthink it. Don't just pick up, like you've already got your colors. So if you're trying to decide what color goes there, you can just, if you don't know, don't think about it. Just take a piece of the color and go, do I like that? Or take another one and go, do I like that? And you put down the one you like. That's all there is to it. To just let the glass take you on a journey, and it will show you a really awesome abstract piece in the end that might look like something, but don't try to make it look like something. That's not what this class is about, because we don't have the ability to cut glass for each other while we're here. Okay, so now I'm going to move over and show you how to glue it, but I'm not going to glue this one because this one's not finished. And that's an important rule. When it's time to glue, you don't glue anything until they're all there in position, because if you were to glue, say, some of this as you go, then if you went to test a piece of glass and you put it there to see if it works, if there's even the slightest bit of wet glue in the neighborhood, too bad, so sad, your test is now permanent. So that is why we do not glue till everything is in place. So it's going to take this away and switch it out for one that is ready to glue. Okay, so now that it's time to glue, let's get that nice and centered. Everybody should have in their kit some crazy glue, and I did not screw the lid on for you. If you've ever been in a class, I usually do that, but so that they won't leak in transport, you get the glue and it's in two parts. So make sure the threads are lined up nicely, and I'm going to screw on the lid. That's okay to do this horizontal. But then you want to turn it vertical, or have the glue pointing straight to the ceiling before you open it. And pretend you have like lobster claws, and hold the bottom. See, hold the bottom half of the lid, and then twist the top and wait a second, because sometimes it burps and the glue could burp out and glue your hand to the tube, and we don't want to do that. Okay, so wait a second, and then the lid comes off, and you are now set to go. Have your glue at the ready. You want to make sure for sure that you're on the riser in case you didn't use it when you were building. Now it's critical. Leave it on the riser, because if while we're gluing the glue happens to creep underneath, you'd be now stuck to the paper, and that's a mess. We don't want to go there, so let's not. Okay, so you want to make sure all your pieces are where you want them to be forever. So if you look here, like you wouldn't want that hanging off. I know it's a little hard to see in the video, but that's why I gave you drawings. So make sure it's lined up flush with the edge, all the way around the edge. Now, if you are right-handed, start in the bottom right corner and then glue the bottom piece all the way to the top. And then we're actually just going to turn the whole piece of paper and repeat that process, bottom corner all the way to the top. Do that all the way around the outside edge, and then you'll go throughout the whole piece and just access it wherever best you can. I better give you a couple quick tips here on regarding the fact we're working with crazy glue. It bonds instantly. Sometimes one drop will glue 2 or 3 pieces at a time. That's why you want to make sure all of your pieces are where they're going to be forever. If you happen to get wet crazy glue on your hand, the best thing to do is go stick your hand in water, because that will break the bond right there. The glue basically sticks to the water and it stops. And you can dry your hand and keep going. If you happen to discover that you've glued your hand to your piece, be careful you don't lift it up. So say this hand here is glued to the piece. You take your other hand kind of like a spider web claw and you hold the piece down gently and then you peel your finger off. So I have to move my hand so you can see you peel your finger off rather than lifting it straight up. Okay, that's what you need to know about the crazy glue for safety. Now we're going to go around the outside edge and glue this piece. So I'm left-handed. I'm going to start on the left-hand side. So the sweet spot where you want the glue to go is you just hold that nozzle right above a crack between the colored pieces and let a drop go down. The drop will literally go down to the clear base, seep underneath the colors, and they are set instantly. So again, just one drop sometimes glues 2 or 3 pieces. Doesn't take very long. And this whole side is now done. So I would turn and continue to do that. I think I actually had some of this pre-glued before I started the video, just to try so you don't have to watch me for 20 minutes gluing. But I want to show you to make sure that it's all glued. Right. I think my border, whoops, I was going to say I think my border's all glued, but there's a spot that's not, and I'm speed cheating, not turning the paper. Okay, all of the pieces on the outside are glued, so now the inside, you just access it wherever best you can. So if you've got a section where the pieces are really tight, like can you see right here, this piece and this piece, they're so tight you can't, a drop of glue will not go down in between the pieces because it's too tight. So just access it where you can, like this orange piece actually already got glued here. And that's another tip. When you got a really long piece, you might need a second drop of glue, but the majority of the pieces of glass you work with only need 1 drop. So because I have to glue these pieces, I might as well toss a drop there and a drop there. Like that drop glued 1, 2, 3, oh, got 3 pieces, not quite 4. So you don't need a ton of glue. Don't worry if you get some glue on top, that's okay, because the glue will burn off in the kiln. Just don't touch it while it's wet or you'll stick to your plate. And then when you've got the whole piece glued or you're not, you think you've got it glued, I'm not going to do it to this because this isn't all glued, but pick it up and wiggle it a little bit. And if you hear anything sliding, then go back and just touch the pieces like this to say, aha, there's one that's not glued, and just make sure that it's glued. And when it's all glued, I want you to leave it on the riser to dry overnight, or at least for a couple hours till you see no wet glue. Then wrap it back up in your bubble wrap and send me an email and we'll make arrangements to pick it up and get it fired for you. Okay? Thanks so much for participating in this takeout appy plate class. I hope you had a really good time. And how do I wave goodbye? I'll see you again sometime in studio when this craziness is past. Bye. Thank you.